Okay. I don't know why I'm still here. Hello, everybody. We were going to have a timer going on like we did last time, but for some reason that didn't happen. So I'm just sitting here doing nothing, wondering what's happening. Not to worry. Welcome, everybody, to this Q&A. This is the last Q&A for the Pet Anxiety Summit 2023, which is pretty cool. And who's here? Say hi in the chat. We've had a lot of fun every day so far, and we've had heaps of people coming into the Q&As. So let me know in the chat, number one, where you're from, because I'd love to hear where you are in the world and what you're up to. We've got Simone saying hi, Debbie saying hi, Buki from the USA. I'm not sure how many people are here, but Isaac, who's in the background, will probably tell me in a moment just how many people are live. But I'd really like to hear which presentation or presentations out of the summit have been your favorite. Which ones have you got the most useful information out of? And are you doing anything from the summit that's making a difference, that's really causing you to help your pets? Have you found some new ways to help your pets? Because this is what this summit is all about, is really filling you up with good information, interventions, understandings that can help you make a difference for your anxious pets. That's why we're here. Now, I'm just going to mention that we have some awesome sponsors. We have polypet.com, that they have a beautiful ebook that you can download in the members area. I'm hoping that Isaac will pop up in the links, the names of the ebooks and the sites that they'll be able to pop through to. So Polypet products, there we go. It's just popped up, and there is an ebook you can download from them in your members area. The second sponsor, if you just pop that in for me too, please, Isaac, that'd be great. I'll tell you about in a moment. And there's also a really cool ebook from me, which is all about understanding and healing pet anxiety in a really holistic way. The second of our sponsors is wellpetdispensary.com, and there are ebooks from both of our sponsors and from me, free ones that in your members area, when you log in to watch the summit, you'll be able to download them and get into that information. So we've got a few people who are sharing which presentations they like most. If a few more of you could do that, that'd be cool. And so Simone, Buki like Doggy Dan, purchased some of his packages, like the Psychology of Dogs approach. Simone, microbiome, as my little intuitive voices kept coming up. Check Learner's microbiome, but got lots of great tools to add to my toolbox. And Simone's already got an appointment with a vet that practices FMT. And hello from Jonko from San Francisco. We've seen Jonko has been on every Q&A session, I think. So I'm just going to quickly go in and recap what's happened in day 5. We had Dr. Christopher Packell, talking about veterinary prescription medications, when and why they might be needed. And Dr. Packell is a specialist veterinary behaviorist. Dr. Kara Gubbins talked about the art of animal communication in understanding and relieving pet anxiety. I talked about healing anxiety with intentional touch, and about how anxiety is simply arousal with nowhere to go. So I'm going to talk a little bit about pain right now. The link between pain and anxiety, because I was in the Pet Summits Facebook group the last couple of days, and there was one person in particular saying, why weren't we talking about pain? I mean, pain's really important. Now, we did actually talk about pain. A lot of the presenters talked at least somewhat about the importance of pain in anxiety in our pets in this year's presentations. And it is an incredibly important thing to consider and rule out with our anxious animals. Now, pain, and particularly soft tissue pain, particularly chronic soft tissue pain, which I call silent pain, is kind of like my most passionate thing that I want to bring awareness to and help pet parents be able to find and heal in their pets. Now, if you have an animal that has chronic pain, a lot of the time they're not going to actually show you anything that you can see. There'll be no change in their behavior. They won't vocalize. They won't whimper, moan, cry out, or anything like that. They just kind of live with it in a silent way. And the only way that I've found that you can always be sure of finding your pet's silent pain is to feel into their body, bring pressure into the areas where the pain and tension is in the tissues, and then you see a non-verbal or body language shift in the animal when you touch the areas and bring pressure into the areas that are painful. So pain is really important because it does interesting things to the brain and the nervous system. It actually changes the whole neurochemistry of the brain in ways that either make anxiety worse or make animals more prone to anxiety. So any degree of chronic pain is going to make your pet's anxiety worse. It's something that is really, really incredibly important. And I think maybe next year we might really dig into that pain issue and see if we can start to talk about the neurobiology and neurochemistry of pain and how it actually changes receptors and chemicals in the brain to exacerbate anxiety. But yeah, I just thought I'd talk a little bit about that because it is super important and you do need to rule it out. Unfortunately, a lot of vets do miss silent pain. If you want to learn how to find your pet's silent pain, I can teach you how to do that. So we've got Debbie liked Dr. Gubbin's presentation. Marika said the essential oil presentation mentioned the importance of good quality oils. You briefly mentioned your source. I'm in Adelaide. So in Australia, I get my oils from the Sydney Essential Oil Company. They have a nice range of organic oils. And then we have someone else, Too Muddy Paula says, enjoyed them all. Standouts are Dr. Megan Barrett, Joan Rankett, Dr. Casera and Andre, Christina Chambro, Dr. Avery, and Dr. Packle. Okay. Now, this is a Q&A. And if we're going to have an exciting, engaging, and useful Q&A, you've got to ask me questions. There is no other way that I can answer questions if you don't ask them. So we've got one question here so far, but we need you to line up some more questions for me so that I can help you as much as possible. I really want to be able to give you as much information as I can in this Q&A, but you really need to be asking me questions if you need to do if you want me to answer. Okay, so from Buki, I'd be interested in hearing your opinion regarding excruciatingly low folate levels, really low, and hyperactivity in a 9-month-old puppy. I've had this dog since he was 9 weeks old. This dog is given high-quality food, genetic predisposition perhaps. My dog is now getting B12 shots weekly for several weeks. So just let me find that. So folate is a really, really important supplement. And signs and symptoms of deficiency of folate in your dog can include, let me see, atrophy of the digestive tract epithelium, which causes reduced absorption of nutrients, diarrhea, anorexia, and weight loss. Now, of course, you need the gut to absorb folate. So if you've got low folate, then it actually makes it even harder for it to get in. Reduced production of platelets, impairments in white blood cell development, which can reduce the immune response, elevated blood homocysteine, and behavior changes, depression and irritability. So yeah, it can definitely play a role in causing a problem with your animal. What breed is your dog again? Bookie, if you could just let me know in the chat what breed your dog is. But I think it's really important to understand that the majority of purebred dogs on the planet have really poor, fragile, and inbred genetics. Now, it's when you're getting a puppy, if you talk to a breeder, ask them one question. Ask them, do you do the coefficient of inbreeding calculation that works out how inbred the dog is on a percentage? Now, ideally, coefficient of breeding should be less than 5%. I don't think there's any purebred average on the planet that has less than 5%, and some are up to 60 or 70% inbred, like Dobermans and Bull Terriers. So when you do have these kind of fragile genetics, then you get animals that tend to have really poor vitality and tend to be way more prone to a whole lot of different issues. And Bookie says that ultrasound and blood work revealed some of these gastro issues. A pariah dog from the Caymans. There might be genetic issues. There might be malnutrition issues from when this dog was a puppy if it's a rescue. It's a bit hard to explain exactly why this is happening, but I'd say that with this puppy, you've got complex, multiple systemic issues, and they're all playing into the ill health and playing into the anxiety. Getting the folate levels up and then investigating all these other kinds of alternative complementary things that you've learned here today. But I'd definitely be considering a fecal microbiota transplant and a fecal transplant with an animal like this to see if that might turn things around. Okay, got another question from Two Muddy Paws. Can you speak to the connection between anxiety and seizures in dogs? I'm not aware of any kind of direct link between dogs having epileptic issues and anxiety. However, epilepsy is a disease of the neurological system in the brain. It's basically an electrical spasm of the brain that we don't know how idiopathic epilepsy forms. We don't understand the cause of it. It's one of those diseases that's called idiopathic. If you have any kind of disease in your animal that's called an idiopathic disease, it means we don't know what the hell causes this disease. So there are changes in the activity levels of the electrical systems in the brain, and that could have some effect on anxiety. It may make anxiety worse, but I don't have any data or information to really know just how much that might happen or what's going on with that. So a question about gabapentin. Does this help the dog to forget an event? For example, using it before a dog goes to a vet for procedure. Will it prevent the animal from remembering a painful or a bad experience? That's a really good question. I know that the more diazepam, Valium-based drugs, they do cause an amnesia of what's happening while the animal is in that sedated state with the Valium. And I know that when I had a tooth extraction a little while ago, I had what they call twilight sedation with Valium type diazepam type drugs, and certainly I couldn't really remember what happened. Gabapentin, no, it doesn't cause the animal to forget the event, but it is an anxiolytic drug, so that it does reduce the animal's anxiety, so that in a situation where the animal might have had distress from anxiety, you give them gabapentin and they go, oh, this is pretty cool. I'm feeling pretty chilled. So that's the gabapentin drug. I did the fear-free certification for vets and vet clinics. Oh, it must be more than a year ago now. And since then, when I was working in the hospital, I actually started giving a lot more animals gabapentin, because if you got an animal with veterinary anxiety, if you don't do something about it, every time they go to the vet clinic, it makes the problem worse. And if you give gabapentin, there's a couple with these animals that are, obviously distressed at going to the vet. There's a couple of benefits. Number one, you're not making the veterinary anxiety whole kind of issue worse by building on it, by having more bad experiences. Number two, your vet can actually examine the animal effectively, and it's much safer for the vet and people working with the animal. They're much less likely to have an animal, try to bite them or something like that. So gabapentin is a drug that I've used, even though I know I'm a really holistic vet and I avoid using medication if I can, but I will use these drugs if I feel like the quality of life of the animal is going to be better, or if we're going to save the animal from suffering. And I've used it really broadly and found it to be very safe. Sometimes you do need to play around with the dose rate a little bit. From Simone, how can you tell if your animal's unwanted / bad behavior is a behavior issue or an anxiety issue? That's a really interesting question. Now, we might talk a little bit about desirable and undesirable behavior just for a moment before I go into actually answering your question, because I think that's an important kind of distinction to make, in that from our perspective, our human perspective, our pets might display behaviors that are either desirable or undesirable. But that's only from our perspective. From the animal's perspective, some of the behaviors that us humans think are undesirable are very desirable for the animal. I mean, a classic one might be barking in dogs. It's a normal behavior. Hole digging in dogs, it's a normal behavior. It's a dog behavior. Humans don't like it much. So one thing is to, help your dog learn not to do things that are undesirable for the human but desirable for the dog, or you give them an opportunity to do it in a way that's not going to upset the apple cart. But I don't talk about bad behavior, because if I start thinking about my dog doing something bad or naughty, it's going to change my whole mental, emotional attitude and how I approach to the animal and how I communicate with them. It's almost like you're being naughty. There can be a real tendency in humans that if you feel like your animal's being naughty, that there's this unconscious kind of punishing energy comes out. So I just talk about behavior as being, oh goodness me, what's going on here with my camera? Let me just change cameras. Sorry about that. Having all sorts of technical issues today, one way or another. Sorry about that. So what a lot of what we call bad behavior, like jumping on people, like destructive behavior, like not responding to commands, not learning well, being over the top and crazy and all these kinds of things, they often really are due to the animal having anxiety of some kind. In the terms of defining anxiety as an animal that is in a state of arousal that they can't come out of and be relaxed, that a lot of these behaviors that we define as bad or undesirable, they only start happening when your dog gets out of green zone or healthy orange zone into unhealthy orange zone and red zone. And if you can help your dog learn how to relax and how to regulate and how to anchor into healthy, resilient relaxation, my experience is that a hell of a lot of this so-called bad behavior just disappears straight away. Okay. Let's go to a question from Luna. There's a couple of questions just above there that we'll have to come back to Isaac after this. Luna says, does my dog want to dominate me if they walk in front of me or pull on the leash? I don't use the language dominate at all. I'm very, very careful. And if I have my clients come in and they start talking about their dog trying to dominate them, I ask them to maybe think about not using that language of domination, because that comes from the whole kind of alpha myth, which came from some really flawed research on a pack of wolves that were contained in a fenced enclosure, which is unnatural because then the adolescent males can't move away. So they then saw conflict because of that unusual, unhealthy, unnatural context that they were trapped in, and then decided that you had this dominance hierarchy in alpha and that there was force used for the lead wolf to be the leader. Now, if you go and you look at a wolf pack, they're a family unit. They live at liberty. And when the adolescent males get to a certain age, they wander off and take up their own life. There's no violence, or hardly ever any kind of violence or dominating behavior in a natural wolf pack. There is the parents that are the elders, and they lead through respect and communication and connection. So no, your dog doesn't want to dominate you if they walk in front of you or if they pull on the leash. What's going on is your dog doesn't understand about yielding to pressure. So if I get a dog coming to me that pulls on the leash, I teach them to give to pressure. And there's ways that I do that with using touch, using the lead. I can't explain how to do that on this call, but I can generally very quickly teach an animal not to pull on the lead. It's nothing to do with domination or your dog trying to boss you around. It's due to a lack of understanding, a lack of clear communication, and sometimes due we're going to have more technical issues. So we've got a question from Marika. My mini poodle has been on clomipramine for 9 months. I'm convinced that the pain is contributing to her anxiety. So it's highly likely that pain is a part of any kind of chronic anxiety. Practically every animal that I ever see who has chronic anxiety has chronic soft tissue pain. And practically every animal that I help people learn how to do body work to do two things: find and relieve the pain, but also use relaxing touch, which is one of the things that we will be teaching you. I'll be teaching you in the post-summit workshop is I'm going to be showing you how to use relaxing touch to help your anxious animals get out of this unhealthy chronic arousal state, which is what anxiety is, and back into a nice, anchored, healthy, resilient relaxation that they can come back into easily and they can anchor into. So yeah, very important to investigate the soft tissue pain. Unfortunately, most vets are pretty bad at finding soft tissue pain. So the best thing you can do is come along to me and learn how to do it for yourself. Okay, what's our next one? Okay, so we've got Jenilyn there, and if we just go a little bit back up the comments, there's another one from Simon that we'll go back to after this one. As my GSD is getting older, she seems to be getting more anxiety. Is that common? It's very common for older dogs, particularly if they start to develop some doggy dementia, to get either develop anxiety or have their anxiety get worse. So I would also want to know, you want to be very sensitive with your GSD to getting aware of the signs of doggy dementia and being curious about if there are symptoms and signs of doggy dementia that might be starting to pop up, and also doing something about treatment of doggy dementia. Pain exacerbates dementia and anxiety, so you need to check for pain. Most older dogs need to be on kind of regular pain relief to help them with that. And probably one of the best medicines that I have used for these dogs with canine cognitive dysfunction, or doggy dementia, as I like to call it, is to use CBD. And the wellpetdispensary.com, which is one of our sponsors, has a pet CBD product that's really high quality and beautiful product. Now we're starting to run out of questions here. So we need you to ask some more questions, all of you. If you've got anything at all, and if you're sitting on something that you think is not a useful question, it's a silly question, they're often the best questions of all. Cheryl, do you have any experience with the kind of products for helping the mouth flora that Dr. Roman briefly discussed? I don't have any experience with the probiotics, oral probiotics for pets. This is something that I heard about for the first time ever with Dr. Roman, and I know that she has a product that she makes from the slime in the water bowls from her dogs that she is producing and sending out in the US for people to be able to use with their animals. That is something that's not available in Australia, I don't think, and I think Dr. Roman's the only person on the planet that's actually doing any kind of thing for oral microbiome work for these animals. Is gabapentin something you can use on a daily basis or just situational? From Simone. You can use it for both. So situational is kind of often a bit higher dose that makes the animal more calm and more sedated. But often when I had animals with more severe anxiety in when I was working in the vet clinic that weren't really responding terribly well to all the kind of holistic interventions that we tried, and we needed to escalate to prescription medications. Sometimes you'd get them onto fluoxetine and, well, they would be there would be an improvement, but not enough improvement. We might add in gabapentin. Or if I had an animal come in with really severe anxiety and they desperately needed assistance, but we've got 6 to 8 weeks for the fluoxetine to fully become active in the system and have full effect, sometimes we would then be putting them on gabapentin 2 or 3 times a day to kind of bridge to the fluoxetine. Sometimes you'd be able to taper them off the gabapentin once they're on the fluoxetine, and some animals, the rare ones, do best on multiple behavior medications at the same time. Okay, so this is a continuation. The first part was, since my dog is a giant breed, I've been very conscious about keeping calm, both me and my dog. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to socialize. We no longer go to dog parks. Our dog is chill, but not others. Could the other dog's anxiety transfer to my calm dog? He's usually very good with me, but will start barking if he's with my husband. So this is a really good question because it brings up some of the complexities of how the human-animal bond can affect the whole situation of how our pets behave in different contexts. Or, you get totally different behavior with one of the humans in the family versus with the other human in the family. So that's one thing that could be going on here, is that perhaps your husband tenses up more when another dog comes near, whereas you're more relaxed, and then your dog's tuning into your husband, and perhaps your dog feels more protective about your husband than you. Perhaps you feel more confident about taking the dog on walks than your husband. There can be a range of different things there that can be in this kind of mix of things that are going on in this situation. And the other thing that's going on here is that your dog may be calm, but if you get another dog that really fixes your dog with a really direct stare and threatening kind of body language, well, of course, your dog's going to escalate into higher levels of arousal if they feel threatened. This whole fight-flight thing is a survival mechanism, and it might be thinking that dog could come and attack me. I better get ready. I better be ready to either protect myself or avoid the issue. So it's not so much that the other dog's anxiety can transfer to your calm dog. It's more that your calm dog is becoming uncalm because they feel threatened by the behavior of this other dog that might be anxious, have poor socialization, not be very good at communicating and all that sort of thing. Debbie says, my son got a pug or Shih Tzu when she was a puppy. The vet gave her puppy shots. While there, she had a seizure. My son freaked and never took her back for shots. She's now 5 and I have her. And is it safe to get her shots again? Okay, that would be a really rare kind of acute thing to happen with a vaccination, but any kind of sudden thing that happens at the same time or shortly after a vaccination, I would consider to be a vaccination reaction. So is it safe to get her shots again? If you've had one vaccination reaction, the chances of having another reaction the next time you have vaccination are increased. So what I would do, and this is what I recommend to everyone with every dog, ever, anywhere, is have your dogs teeter tested before you revaccinate. If they've had any vaccination at any stage of life and you're concerned about whether or not they need to be revaccinated, and I will never use the word booster because it's a kind of manipulative and false language, because your C3 vaccinations or F3 vaccinations in cats last at least 5 to 7 years and often a whole lot longer. So go and have a teeter test. If you're in the USA, you can ask your vets to order in the in-house Vaccicheck, BioGal brand, BioGal brand Vaccicheck kits, which then make it really affordable to you to teeter test for the 3 diseases, the canine distemper, canine hepatitis, and parvovirus. Whereas I know from working with other people in the US that it can be incredibly expensive to teeter test your pets if you send it off to the lab. But there is the availability of these much more affordable tests that you can get your vet to order in and do in-house. Okay, who's next? I did a hair analysis on 2 of my dogs, and the results were pointing to mineral imbalances. Can drugs like venlafaxine, clonidine, trazodone, sertraline, prazosin affect vitamin and mineral absorption, and can that contribute to their anxiety? 6-year-old Golden and 2-year-old BC. That's a really good question. I think that all drugs are going to have, most of these drugs, the majority of animals in the middle of the bell curve are going to be fine. It's not going to cause a whole lot of difference. It's not going to be a major problem. But you're going to have drugs that animals, a little proportion of animals up one end of the bell curve, that are going to be way more sensitive to the effects of the medication than others. And yeah, sometimes that they can affect things like mineral imbalances, but would that contribute to their anxiety? I don't know. I mean, you're in a bit of a rock and a hard place there, in that, number one, we don't really have good data about whether or not this affects vitamin and mineral absorption or not. So the only way we would really know is if we'd done some hair tissue analysis before we put them on the medications, and then after we did the medications, we did another one to see if it had made any change. It's possible. I don't think it's probably terribly likely that these particular drugs would affect vitamin and mineral absorption, but I don't. The simple answer is that I really don't have a clear answer for you on that one. What is the withdrawal time from trazodone? My puppy has not had any for 6 months. We did not know she was on this when adopting her. She's now 6 months with no trazodone. So there is no real withdrawal time, so to speak, from trazodone. Trazodone is a situational medication, so you can begin and stop it without having to taper it. And it should be completely out of the system, within days or a week or 2. That being said, sometimes medications can leave kind of like an energetic impact on the whole dog system, and you might need to use homeopathy, flower essences, energy healing, things like that, to clear out the not the physical chemical residue, but kind of like the energetic residue of some of these medicines at times. So we seem to have run out of questions. So there is one from Cheryl a little further up. What do you do for dental care? What do I do for dental care? I recommend that you go to your vet and have a really close examination of the mouth at least once a year to check for tartar and gingivitis. But if you really want to have the best dental care for your vet, find a vet who has a dental x-ray machine, and definitely from the age of 3 or 4 onwards, you need to have a general anaesthetic and full dental x-rays every year, because there's often pathology going on underneath the gums that cannot be observed by an examination. I know at the hospital that I most recently worked at, the owner of that clinic said that she was horrified after she got her dental x-ray machine, how much problems she was missing before she got it. So really important that you have x-rays. Okay, what's the next question? What is a good protocol for gabapentin for a 14-pound and 8-pound cat? I cannot give you advice on dose rates and things like that in an open forum like this. It's not appropriate or professional or ethical for me to do that. You need to go to your vet, and your vet will work out an initial dose rate. And then what will happen is that because every animal has a bit different sensitivity to a given medication, you might have to try one dose. Oh, that wasn't enough. Increase the dose. So you might try one dose and go, oh, wow, that made my animal way too sleepy. We need to try reducing the dose a little bit until you get into the sweet spot for your particular animal. And in terms of, whether it's a situational dose like just the night before and then a few hours before you go to the vet clinic for vet anxiety, or whether you're going to be on, 1, 2 or 3 times a day, that's something that needs to be discussed with your vet. My rescue dog is on clonidine, and I give him, he's on fluoxetine. I give him clonidine before daily walks, car trips, having groups of friends over, etc. Are there long-term impacts of these that I should be discussing with my vet? Well, to some extent, with every medication, there's going to be some kind of long-term effect on the body, because the body has to work to metabolize and detox the drug out of the system. That being said, the question really that needs to be asked here is more, what's the risk? What's the benefit? Does the benefit outweigh the possible long-term kind of very slight drain on the system that this drug is going to be causing for the animal? And in the case of most anxious animals, then keeping them on the drug is going to be better. Now, if you are concerned about the long-term impacts, having some regular blood tests where you check the all the physiological markers, the biochemistry, the blood cell counts, and all that sort of thing, will give you an idea of what's going on. That's a pretty good indication. And if you're at all concerned about long-term impacts, well, do talk to your vet about that. That's what your vet's there for, is for you to discuss any concerns you might have with them about your pet's healthcare. And another thing is that you could try doing those things without the clonidine and see how well your animal copes. Another thing you might want to do is start going, well, okay, I do want to maybe see if I can get my animal off maybe just the clonidine, or perhaps eventually both clonidine and fluoxetine. Then what you could do is start experimenting and implementing all of the things that you've learned at the Pet Anxiety Summits. You can start doing therapeutic touch. You could come along to the post-summit workshop, and I will help you create and implement a holistic treatment plan for your pet's anxiety issues. And I will teach you how to do the therapeutic touch, the relaxing touch, which is the cornerstone of how I help anxious animals heal. Okay. What is your opinion on curcumin, turmeric, for anxiety for dogs and cats? I don't really think that turmeric is going to make a very large difference for dogs and pets in terms of anxiety. It does reduce inflammation. So if there is an inflammatory process in the brain, it might reduce anxiety a little bit, but it really is mostly an anti-inflammatory pain relief. Now, you might get the odd dog that it does make a significant difference with the anxiety, if that dog is right at the sensitive end of the bell curve for how they respond to that medication. But really, curcumin golden paste with your pets is for an anti-inflammatory and pain relief. It's not an it's not probably not going to make a material difference in anxiety, in my experience. Okay, what is the best amount of cardio to burn off the anxiety? I know as humans we sometimes run or walk to dissolve anxiety. It must be the same for dogs. Well, it doesn't actually must be the same for dogs. Exercise can be helpful for some dogs with anxiety, but you want to make sure that the exercise is only of the intensity that your dog is staying in the green zone of arousal, which is relaxation, or in healthy orange levels of arousal, which means that your dog is more activated and more alert and more aroused, but still has their full ability to think and be calm and respond to commands and learn and all that sort of thing. So, going and throwing the ball for your dog with an anxious dog is going to take them into high orange or red a lot of the time. A lot of these dogs that have ball addictions is kind of like almost part of their anxiety. And that is going to make things worse over time because you're reinforcing unhealthy levels of arousal. So yes, exercise is good, but exercise that keeps them in the right arousal zone is really, really important. Let's just have a quick chat before I take any more questions about the post-summit anxiety workshop that I'm going to be leading. It's going to be coming up a few weeks after the summit. Now, the whole focus of the 2 days we're going to spend together is that I'm going to help you understand, create, and implement a holistic pet anxiety treatment plan. Now, it's going to have 4 components. You're going to learn about environment and triggers and how to minimize them and manage them. There's like the 4 M's. The first one is environment. The second one is behavior modification, which, you can work with positive reinforcement trainers to do that. You can do desensitization and counter conditioning. And the way that I most often use to create behavior modification in anxious pets is by using relaxing therapeutic touch. Something that I've discovered. I don't know anyone else who's using touch in this way with anxious animals around the planet as of yet. And I'm going to be teaching you how to do that in the workshop. You're going to be having a hands-on lesson with me. I'll have my little Mitzi here, who I can't show you on my other camera because my other camera system. I'll pick him up and show you. Here he is. Look at him. Isn't he cute? Mitzi will be our demonstration dog. He's going to help teach you how to do relaxing touch with your pets. If you do this every day with your pets, it can lead to incredible healing of anxiety very rapidly. Then we talk about medication. For me, medication includes every single kind of invention that you can do, all the holistic treatments like homeopathy, flower essences, animal communication, energy healing, supplements, diet change. Then we get into complementary and alternative veterinary stuff like traditional Chinese veterinary medicine and fecal transplants, all that sort of thing. And then we escalate to the pharmacological prescription medications. And then the final thing that we talk about in this workshop is monitoring, which is watching your animal, seeing how they respond, adapting and changing and evolving your treatment plan over time. So it's going to be a stack of fun, and I'm really looking forward to it because if you come along to this workshop, it will make a really material difference in your ability to help your anxious pets. And you'll see it in the chat there. There's a link where you can pop in and get registered for that straight away if you like. Okay, let's go back to the questions. Do you leave lights on at night for cats, says Cheryl. No, I don't leave lights on for night cats because cats can actually see in the dark so much better than people that it's not funny. They've got very, very good night vision. There's no need to leave lights on at night for cats. And all of us, humans, cats and dogs, need healthy darkness to be truly well. Our circadian rhythms, the internal rhythms that manage and modulate all of the metabolic systems and processes in our being are affected by the quality of light we get. And artificial light, particularly blue light from screens after sunset, is actually really bad for the well-being of both humans and pets. So just be aware of that. And no, I would not leave lights on all night. They need darkness to be for health and well-being. Linda says, do you have suggestions for energy touch points for a cat with idiopathic cystitis? She overgrooms her belly, which could also be from her allergies. I've already signed up for your workshop. Awesome, Linda. So if you've signed up for the workshop, I will help you work out a plan of attack to help this cat. Now, if your cat's overgrooming her belly, it's highly likely to be anxiety. That's a really classic symptom in cats of anxiety. And it's energy touch points. Well, you'll learn about the more therapeutic touch in the workshop. There's no particular places that are specific to that. It's more a whole body thing. It's more the quality of pressure and movement that you use in the touch that really is the key thing that causes the relaxation response. And so I can't give you specific energy points, but I have found that flower essences can be incredibly helpful for these anxious type cats. So that might be worth exploring too. So there's another question here. Would something like omega-3 help anxiety? It can, to some extent, again. So there is evidence and data that shows that omega-3 has a calming effect on dogs, and that it relieves depression, anxiety, and hyperactivity of humans as well. So it is one of those things that it's really important to get the omega supplementation of your animal in the right place. Just about every pet and human on the planet has got an imbalance in their omegas, because you've also got to get the right proportion between omega-3 and omega-6 to get the best results when you're going to supplement for this. My personal favorite omega supplementation is calamari oil. It's more sustainable, and it has good balance of what's going on there. From Jenilyn, can GI issues cause a worsening of anxiety? Absolutely. The gut-brain axis is incredibly important in anxiety. The status of inflammation and the kind of microbiome, the mix of bacteria that are in the gut, directly affect how the brain functions, and arousal levels and sensitivity levels and neurochemistry of the brain, the neurotransmitters and all that sort of thing are affected through the communication of the vagus nerve between the gut and brain. So yeah, any kind of animal that has gut issues, it's going to be causing a predilection to or a worsening of existing anxiety issues. And the more you can do to heal the gut, the more likely it will be that you will be improving anxiety as well. Too muddy pause. I found that building confidence helps lower anxiety. Scent work, Parker, Raleigh have all made a huge difference. I don't remember anyone speaking specifically on that type of work. That is a really good thing to talk about, and I'm going to make a note of that for next year's summit, because the more confident an animal is, the less anxious they are, because confidence in effect is literally the opposite of anxiety. If you come in and you see yourself as a human, if you're confident, it's very difficult to be anxious if you're actually honestly confident about things. So anything that you can do to build confidence and resilience in your dogs is going to be a big help on the anxiety front, for sure. Another thing I just want to mention is we've got an amazing VIP pass with the Pet Summit. If you invest in your VIP pass, you will get lifetime access to all of the recordings of all the presentations, not only from this year, but all the ones from last year as well, and a whole lot of other goodies. The price will be going up at the end of the summit. So please jump in and grab that if you are interested in having ongoing access to this resource, so that you can come back and review the information you've learned anytime you like. I know there's a lot of information and it's a lot to take in all at once. But it's really incredibly good value. I encourage you to come in and be a VIP member, because then you will have like a library of things. Mitzi wants to get down. Down you get, buddy. Okay. And that building confidence said it helped my BC with his reactivity to dogs and car chasing, which is pretty cool. Okay. Then Marty Paws has got a question. I have the VIP for pass from last year's summit. Is it good for this year too? Isaac will be able to answer that in the question. And I've still got 10 minutes to hang out with you beautiful people. So would love to ask you if you might be able to ask me another question or two. And so what is your recommendation to help a cat with early kidney disease? So number one, make sure that you're working with your vet, going to see your vet regularly, having blood tests at least every 6 months or so to keep track of the kidney markers to see if things are getting better, getting worse. Super important with any cat with kidney disease to check blood pressure, because if you've got high blood pressure, it accelerates the development of the disease. And then you want to get onto a diet that is a bit protein limited, low in phosphorus, things like that. I can't go into details with that because I can't remember every detail of everything that I need to as a vet in my head. That's why I have textbooks and Google. But absolutely really work with your vet. Now, in addition to working with your regular vet, there is a whole lot you can do with your more complementary alternative and holistic vets. Traditional Chinese veterinary medicine can be incredibly helpful for slowing down the progression or even ceasing the progression of kidney disease in some cases in animals. But yeah, I think that's about everything that I can say on that one. And of course, the less stress in the household, the better your animals are going to go. Okay, I've run out of questions again. Have anyone out there got a question for me? Please pop in the chat. No more questions yet. So if you got anything at all, let me know. There's 39 of you still out there. So, you know, I know that you're out there. Come and please ask me a question. Cheryl Ollie, my cat's been scratching, looks like dandruff. I give cats several small amounts of food during the day. Is that okay? Yeah, feeding your cat several small amounts during the day is okay. If your cats have been scratching and look like dandruff, you'll need to get some veterinary attention to see if you can help that. Any kind of condition that is itchy really makes anxiety worse. So if you've got anxious animals and then they have allergies flare up, you'll often notice that the anxiety symptoms will get on. Do we know when next year's summit will be? We have not finalized the dates for next year's Pet Anxiety Summit as of yet, I do not believe. If you're part of the Pet Summit community, you'll get their regular newsletter and you will definitely be told about when it's going on in that newsletter closer to the time next year. November 16, we do have a date. So November 16, 2024, we'll be going live with our next edition of the Pet Anxiety Summit. My 10-year-old terrier is completely confident at the dog park. At home, he acts so skittish. Any ideas? Well, that's unusual. It's nearly always the other way around, that dogs are kind of happy and relaxed at home and more likely to be skittish or anxious in other kinds of situations. So the first thing that I would be wondering is, you know, why is your dog skittish at home? What's going on? Is there some kind of are there people in the household that have ongoing anxiety or trauma issues? Is there another animal? Is there a cat that bullies your dog? Something like that. So I'd be really curious about what's going on with the context and the environment that your little dog has going on, because it's kind of unusual that an animal will be more skittish at home. So I'd be really curious about trying to dig into, is there some kind of stimulus in the environment at home that might be a problem? From a more energy intuitive type side of things, I have noticed that when I do more kind of energy healing work, sometimes there can be imbalances in the actual energy of the earth in the place where the home is, that can play quite a role in animals being more aroused and more skittish. So that might be something to look into as well. Does milk thistle interact with metronidazole? Just did a quick little visit to Dr. Google for that. And yes, silmarin or milk thistle has been shown to reduce blood levels of flagell by 30%, which could lead to the levels not being high enough to have a therapeutic effect. And apparently vitamin C and with vitamin E, if you combine vitamin C and vitamin E, it also reduces the effectiveness of metronidazole. So yes, it is important. I mean, I suppose you'd naturally probably want to give milk thistle because metronidazole is a bit tough on the liver, but there is a chance that metronidazole is going to not be as effective, have lower blood levels with what's going on. So just be a little bit careful with that. So remember that we've got the workshop coming up in a few weeks after we finish this. I'm going to have 2 days together. I'm going to show you exactly how to take all the confusion out of what you're going to do to help heal your pet's anxiety and prevent your pet's anxiety. We'll go right through a simple, easily structured, easy to put into practice process for you to create and implement a holistic pet anxiety treatment plan for your pets. The above link for the workshop doesn't seem to work again. Could you type it again? So that's in there again. And what's our next question? Simone says, "A million thank yous for this summit." You're so welcome. It's been such a pleasure and a privilege putting this all together. So Marianne's got a question. What is the average playtime per day we should spend with our cats and dogs? So it depends a little bit on the quality of play. If you're talking about really high arousal, high impact play, a very small amount. Ball throwing is one thing that I try to talk people out of doing with their animals. I really try to talk them right out of doing ball play because it's not good in so many different ways. If you've got an anxious animal, it'll make the anxiety worse. It's hard on the body. It's a challenging thing. But play that is grounded and focused and calm, you can do lots and lots and lots of that. But you just want to have your dog in the green zone or the high orange zone. The healthy orange zone is where you want to have your animals for play. So that probably the healthy orange zone is the sweet spot for healthy play. So we're nearly done for today. Please make sure that you pop into your members area, download the ebook from me about understanding, preventing and treating pet anxiety holistically. We've also got a beautiful ebook from each of our sponsors, from Polypet Products, and another ebook from the where are they? Well Pet Dispensary. Both of these companies make beautiful, beautiful, high quality supplements of various kinds. Polypet have a beautiful probiotic supplement, and seeing as gut health is a big emphasis this year round, you will know that having probiotics is very helpful for anxious animals and for prevention of anxiety. And we have the Well Pet Dispensary as well. There's an ebook that you can download from them too. So grab those free resources. They're really valuable. You'll be able to have them there. And we've got one more question that I might answer from Linda. Is it possible that flower essence might trigger cat's environmental allergies? Tried feel away, it did nothing. It's very, very unlikely that a flower essence would trigger any kind of environmental allergy. I mean, it's not impossible, but it would be so vanishingly rare that I think it very, very, very unlikely. Okay, we're done for the last Q&A session. So thank you everybody for participating in this summit. It's been an incredible joy and a privilege to bring together all of these speakers and all this wisdom. Now your job is to get out there and put it into practice. But don't try to put it all into practice all at once. Just start with one or two things and see how your animal responds. And, you know, maybe they work, then you can add things, or maybe they don't work and you try other things, but keep going on. And right now, I'm going to say goodbye to you. Have a beautiful day with your pets. And Isaac's just put in the chat, if you need any help signing up with the workshop, contact Pet Summits at hello@petsummits.com. Bye for now. We'll see you in the workshop.